Welcome everybody. I'll give it a few seconds here to. Okay, we've got one viewer so far. Just giving it a couple seconds for people to log on and check it out. All right, I'll start the intro. Welcome to Open Mind Productions. This is Christopher Shirer and my guest Alexander DeFiore. Today we're going to be talking about some highly controversial topics. Please keep an open mind and remember, this is not to be taken as religious or cultural, and viewer discretion is highly advised. What do you want to start off with today?
So I just want to first and foremost thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to accommodate for this this webcam chat.
Absolutely.
And really appreciate you allowing us to really engage in this environment.
No TV right now, dude.
So
Your room.
I'm going to kick it off with a personal story, actually. So, over the past week, a member of the family passed away, and and so, of course, funeral preparations have been in the works to ensure that this person is set on their way properly, and bid farewell with having friends and family around her. So all the while, leading in the days leading up to today, ever since she passed away, which was last Wednesday, my mother has just been an absolute train wreck. Like thinking about Hurricane Fiona, and the worst case scenario of all the times that a hurricane could be passing over our land. The state of Florida. It has to be, it has to be now when she has to book a flight to fly up to be with her family for the funeral, and so she didn't want to leave. And I'm like, Mom, I said, rather than than being in a state of paranoia, which is the idea that things in the universe are conspiring against you, why don't you change your mindset to a state of pronoia, meaning that things are going to work out the way they should, the way that is in divine order, and and not to worry about the worst case scenario, but rather what's the best case scenario? What's the best thing that could happen to me? And just focus on that, because as you know, Chris, being an open-minded person yourself, understand the idea that whatever you focus on grows. I mean, if you focus on something that's going to enhance the quality of your life in some way, then you're going to, by the law of attraction or the law of mirroring, you're going to manifest that very thing that you have in your mind conceived of, which is the first creation.
Right.
Thought form then is made manifest into the real world. So I just wanted to just preface the conversation by saying, over the past week, I kind of had an epiphany, Chris. And what I came to realize is that, I can talk from now until the cows come home about the various theories that make up the origins of our humanity, of our human creation. But, there's always going to be that person or that group of people who require empirical data, meaning, they require scientific proof beyond reasonable doubt to back up that claim, of really where we come from and how we got here. So, rather than diving deep into the topic of the Anunnaki and the Nephilim or the reptilian race and all those hot button issues that can trigger people to react defensively, I wanted to first start out by saying how important it was, and I'm going to turn this over to you in a minute because I know that I have a feeling that you're going to be able to relate to what I have to say. So about 6 years ago, I had a mental breakdown. I left New England. I sold my house. I left for California. I decided that I was going to pursue a career in film production. So I packed everything up, and without even having any contacts or knowing anybody out on the West Coast, I shipped everything across country, and I followed. I then drove across country shortly thereafter to essentially find myself a new place to live. And it was a very costly experience because I wasn't prepared for the challenge. First of all, I didn't really know what I was getting myself into. And once I did arrive in LA, in Los Angeles, I realized, here I am. I've got an 18-wheeler that's packed to the brim with all of my worldly belongings and and my life savings, and that's really all I had to go with at that point. I had no job leads. I had no place to live. I had to find a place to live within 3 days. Otherwise, the 18-wheeler would have dumped all my the contents of that truck onto the lawn somewhere. It was a really scary experience. So needless to say, I did find a place to live. But it was in a really seedy neighborhood of West LA, and I just crashed and burned. I had stuff stolen from my apartment. I started to get depressed and went into just really didn't have any emotional or family support of anyone out there while I was in California. So. But had it not been for the power of meditation, I wouldn't be here where I am today. I probably would be in jail or dead, because meditation really did help me overcome a lot of the emotional trauma that I had to deal with, in having lost financially. I felt emotionally devastated and vulnerable. And I just didn't feel as though my life was going anywhere. But it wasn't until I started to meditate and really just channel my thoughts inwardly and just to tune out all the noise, the distractions, whatever the mainstream media is putting forth on their headlines, to sell the story. I just tuned all that out, and I had an epiphany. I said to myself, did I incarnate on this planet to really buy into the fear-based media and all the information, the misinformation that is being fed to us on a daily basis? Or did I come here to live a life of love and fulfillment and joy and make connections with people like you, Chris, and and inquiring minds that that really want to expand their consciousness and understanding of our fate as a species, where we're going on this planet. So
Pause just for a second. I'm getting a few comments that your audio is a little bit weak, like
it's
low.
weak.
There, that was a lot louder.
Okay, I'm sorry about that.
That's fine.
How is that? Is that better now, Chris?
And how's that, David? David's the one saying it's a little bit weak, so we'll see if it's better for him.
Okay. You let me know. I mean, I can talk all day long.
He says he doesn't know.
He doesn't know. Can you hear me, Chris?
I can hear you just fine.
Okay, all right. Maybe it's his connection. I don't know. I'm not sure. But
Who knows?
Where's everybody at? What group?
What's everybody listening off of? Is it the podcast page or my actual Facebook account? I'm on my.
I'm on your account or on Facebook.
I think it's.
I don't see anybody.
Is Facebook the only way? So people are actually.
No, it's going to YouTube also.
Okay. Maybe it's the strength of my signal. I don't know.
Who knows?
I mean, my Wi-Fi. I'm on a Wi-Fi signal.
Shannon says it's a little muffled at times. Okay.
Chris, hold on. I'm gonna change my Wi-Fi.
Okay.
No, I mean, like, I don't see any comments.
Can you hear me better now?
I'm writing.
How is it now compared to before?
It's the same for me.
Okay, Chris is saying it's the same for me.
David says all I would say is put the microphone closer to your mouth.
Well, my microphone are my AirPods.
Right. And mine's right here.
Okay. Yeah. So anyway, like I said, the other day I actually aired an episode on my channel, on my YouTube channel, regarding the two largest global asset firms known as Blackrock and Vanguard. And
right, I watched that one.
For lack of better terms, I think I pretty much covered as much territory on that one as I possibly could have, without really expressing any personal bias or sounding like I'm trying to impart any negative judgment upon those institutions. That's not my intention, Chris. I don't want to make it seem as though I'm fear mongering or being antagonistic about my approach, but rather I just wanted to enlighten my audience with the idea that you have certain references. I mean, Blackrock, right? So the Black Cube of Allah. I mean, it's an homage to pre-Mesopotamian times. I mean, you're dating back to ancient Sumeria. And
right.
So, and you know, with with the 1% of the world controlling 99% of the assets, I think it's a fair statement to say that there's been a major misallocation of funds, over the course of our human history. So
Mm-hmm.
I think what we're experiencing now in the financial market is a rebalancing of sorts, where people are really starting to kind of, to hunker down and figure out where to place their value upon how much money to spend on what on different activities or different utilities and such. So I just think that people need to are starting to become more sensible with the ways that they're spending their money, because it's just, I mean, the government can only print so much before it just continues to deflate in value. And
Right.
but we're seeing the pinch at the pump, and we're seeing the rising cost of goods and services, and it's causing people to be more judicious and make more well-informed choices as far as what where they choose to be a consumer.
Right.
So you were going to talk about something personally yourself, Kristen. Did you mentioned you wanted to kick off the show with a talk about your bouts with your personal, something that happened to you?
Yeah. Well, it kind of goes along with waking up to a higher potential and a higher state of being, and just like being with your, like, connected with yourself and all that kind of stuff. Like, my story kind of starts out in my teenage years when I was stuck in addictions and stuff like that, and living on the street and being homeless and couch surfing. And it's like a lot of my bout has been struggling through that, and it wasn't till just a few years ago when I actually overcame a lot of that was holding me back. And my girlfriend now has helped me out a lot with that, and helping me overcome and keeping me on like a path of self discovery, and
I'm really happy for you.
keeping me in line kind of, and helping me understand like other aspects of about myself, where sometimes I get angry, and so she'll talk with me about that and let me know that, hey, calm down and remember your steps and stuff like that. And it's like, so I gotta give a shout out to her for that one. She's been a very huge support in my life the past 5 years, 5.5, 6 years. And
Great.
so like I ended up going through a treatment facility which was called Ascend, which is ironic.
Okay.
The facility was actually called Ascend Behavioral Health and Wellness.
Oh,
So
Ascend. Oh.
Ascend, yeah. So like I'm trying to ascend, but I also went to a facility called Ascend, which did, I can't remember if it was 60 or 90 days, but it was
I've been there, Chris. I've been in treatment facilities as well. It's not a picnic.
right. And I just want to let people know that it was it's not something to be ashamed of, or to like, it's more of like a self-reflection experience. Like, as you go through sobriety and find your sobriety and grab a hold of it, it's actually it's a spiritual awakening type thing, that you can actually relate to yourself a lot more. You have a more clear mind. Your thoughts are cleaner. Your direction is more prioritized, and you start becoming more sufficient and responsible with your time, your money, and the friends you choose to keep in your circle. And, you know, with that being said, I've actually dropped a lot of the people I used to associate with because they were more like enablers, you know. And
Yeah,
so, like, um, in 2016, in the depths of all this, I went through a change. You know, this is the event that I talk about. It's not that what I was doing was causing it, or was the cause from it. It was just more like in a shroud of darkness, you can find a light. You know what I'm saying?
absolutely.
And so, um, it was euphoric. It was something that, like, it felt like something grabbed the back of my neck and pulled me out of my shell or my skin, and it gave me goosebumps and uncontrollable sobbing, blowing up with air, like like a major aha moment. It was like literally like when you wake up from a sudden dream. It was so vivid and so real that, like, you wake up and you're like, you know what I mean?
Yes.
It was, but it wasn't a dream. I was wide awake, and it was that experience that led me down a numerous amount of rabbit holes, and, you know, a lot of conspiracies, or I don't like to call them conspiracies anymore. I call them controversial topics, because,
Yeah.
you know, what's not controversial anymore?
Right.
You know, even topics about spirituality can be very controversial as well. And
No,
so, like, even though it's a
you think about the cause of all major world wars throughout the course of human history,
right,
and it's all boiled down to spirituality. The
yep.
Crusades, the Roman, the uh, what's his name there, Constantine. Um,
I don't
you
want to get
know,
into that.
no, nobody wants to rehash history because
No.
you're doomed to repeat it, and that's not where I feel
Well,
we
no,
are
no,
headed.
not that the history thing was all a big deal. I think it's important that we learn the true history so it doesn't repeat itself for those who understand it. You can
But here's the
avoid those.
problem.
Yo,
Here's the problem, Chris. We have not been told. Okay, let me rephrase it. Whoever tells the story controls the narrative.
right.
So throughout human history, anything that we've ever been told that is fact or true has more often than not been told by the winning side. The
Hmm.
losers don't get a chance to tell their story because they don't have anything to tell. They have to just lower their head in shame and bow out.
We
Bow
put
out in
up a good
conversation.
fight, but we still lost.
Exactly, exactly.
Right.
So unfortunately, our history, the references to our history have been skewed, have been biased, and it starts as early. They get you early on. They get you right at 4 years old up until 18. From K through 12, you're in an academic institution and you're being programmed into believing these written records of events that took place during times when there was no equality. There was no, you didn't have, women's rights or free speech, back in the dark ages, the medieval times. You know,
Right.
if
Anyone who
you were
talked was beheaded or burned at the
exact,
stake.
right.
Right.
So, so you understand how easy it is to be. Well, let me rephrase it. How difficult it is to unprogram yourself from years of institutional indoctrination, where you're just being like a duck that's being fed corn to make foie gras. They force feed it down its throat until its liver is engorged so much that it just can't even walk anymore. That's exactly what the education system does to people. Is it brainwashes them into believing a certain scripted narrative, and you have to remember it's a lot of it's based on memorization and recitation. So if you don't recite in specific order the correct answer to the problem, then you're graded poorly, and then you're put into a ranking system where you then become, if you don't achieve a passing grade, then you are marginalized and you're
held back.
And you're held back. So, and that's where you have, and then that's when you get into people that that are dealing with self-esteem issues. I mean, it's all derived from this idea that whoever came up with this system of education that everyone has to conform to as a global standard isn't dealing with they're coming from the perspective, their agenda is to profit. They just want to profit. It's a system for profit, for the intents and purposes of profiting off of people's education, off of people's time and money. And I mean, I just read an article on GLP the other day about this college professor who retired after 20 years in the education system because he got fed up with the fact that he was giving passing grades to students who had no business passing his class, but because you're on a bell curve, and you have to give you have things like bullying that take place in schools now, and
I was bullied bad in school.
Right.
No, probably because I was different, or someone once told me that they can smell your light or whatever, the difference within you, and that's why people get bullied. But go ahead, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, not at all, Chris. My point is that the education system doesn't allow for individuality for people to express their own individuality in ways that go beyond the realm of academia, that go beyond the scope of, if you don't achieve a passing grade, then there must be something wrong with you, and we have to put you into an institutional system, or label you autistic or ADHD. I have a real problem with that, Chris, because just because a student is not a good test taker doesn't necessarily mean that student that individual, that person is bright, is smart. They can be gifted in other ways, just not within a confined system of ordinance and protocol that they have to follow, strict guidelines that they have to meet in order to get that diploma. And once you get that diploma, you're so in debt that it's going to take the rest of your life to come back in the black, to get back in the black and to pay off your student loans. So it's a flawed system. We are going through right now. I think right now what's happening with everything that the school shootings and bullying and we're going through a period of reform, and homeschooling is becoming a more and more widely embraced alternative to sending children off to public school systems. I'm not sure why I'm harping on education. It's really not my forte, but I guess
it kind of goes with it, because if you're not properly educated, how are you going to know how to discern the difference between the two? What's right information and what's not right information. So a proper education is important.
But they don't teach you critical thinking skills within the school system. They don't teach you how to think. They only teach you how to memorize. They only
take orders.
And take orders. May I go to the restroom? May I? Yes, sir. No, sir. May I have more, sir? There's no leeway. There's no wiggle room in the academic in academia. There's no. Yes, kindergarten starts the indoctrination. Thank you, Shannon Boomgard. That is when they get you. They get you when you're young and impressionable and you really are absorbing everything that's coming into your senses. That you're
Because when
able
you're
to.
that young, your brain is still super fluid and spongy, and so that information is going to stick with you longer, and it's going to be harder to unprogram that early stuff because it's embedded so deep. And as we get older, our brains grow, and like an onion has layers to it, and those earlier teach the things they teach you when you're that young, like I was a religious kid from, when I was really young till, about 17 years old, and it was hard to break away from that mind state and that religious programming. So a lot like the education system, like I learned a little bit on like mathematics and like how to count and all that, and a little bit of world history and like English and spelling and all that stuff, but there wasn't really much more that they could offer me now that I'm looking back at it as an adult. There wasn't really much they offered me to help me progress in the real world, you know. It's
And
more
that's.
like it was more like a public babysitting service where you get taught things that you know what I mean?
Yeah. And we've all been through the peer pressure. We've all dealt with peer pressure from our friends and family during those early ages and stages of life where you have to make certain choices, certain career paths. You have to start to make a career choice for yourself in terms of where you want to see yourself down the road. And I'll use myself as an example. I mean, I fell into the trap of following the crowd because my best friend at the time got accepted into college. I felt like I had to follow him and become educated through the college, through the postgraduate system as well. So, but what they don't teach you is critical thinking and the ability to use your given talents, the talents that you innately have, and go beyond the realm of academia so that you can start to think more in terms of an entrepreneur from a business mindset where you're not punching in the clock, going to work a 9 to 5 day in and day out, and you make your own schedule and you sum up business the way that you normally would, just by virtue of knowing that you have value in offering a service that is in demand, that is needed, and being confident in your abilities to promote a valuable service to the public. They don't teach that in the school system. All they teach you is, and I think we're just beating a dead horse here, but all they teach you is if you don't make a passing grade, then it just further extends the wait time that you have to graduate. And then once you do, you really have no idea where to set foot into the real world because you're lacking, because they don't teach you life experience. They only teach you book smarts. So my education is from being a course taker and a library card. Yeah. Yeah, and see, and that's really where a lot of people gain their strength is just improvising, and using the resources in their community, not necessarily going to college and paying exorbitant tuition costs, but by using the resources within the neighborhood. So with that said, I just wanted to also brush upon the idea that we, and when I say we, I mean collectively as in terms of humanity, are also shifting away from idolatry and the worship of celebrity figures, and putting them on a pedestal as if they're some sort of role model, to from which to base your own life experience. I think that no school can teach life experience, only life itself. You got that right, Randy. You and see, the word celebrity is derived from chelibe, which in Greek means single, you like as in one. So as in everyone in Hollywood, is one star, is a star. But the truth of the matter is, we are all celebrities. If in the idea that we are the creators and co-creators of our own reality.
Mm-hmm.
Each and every one of us has the divine spark that's sponsored within the seed of our soul that allows us to create our own life path without having anyone to tell you what is right from wrong, what's good from bad. You have your own internal compass that allows you to make those guided choices in your life that are going to be in your best interest. And it's important to surround yourself with people that do have your best interests at heart. And in the process of awakening for me, I had to lose a lot of dear people in my life that I just didn't feel shared the same value system, shared the same values as myself, and that was okay because there's the old expression: you whittle away the dead wood to make room for new growth. So in order to, you have to cut your losses, know when to hold them, when to fold them. I don't play cards, but I know that expression, and make sure that that you have the people around you who are going to promote you, and not the ones that are waiting at the finish line because they didn't want to run the marathon. They're just going to be there to high five you when you cross the finish line and say, "Hey, where's the victory party?" Well, where were you when? Where were you when I needed a shoulder to cry on, someone to confide in, to express my vulnerable side, and to maybe receive some career counseling.
Without getting exploited about it.
Without getting exploited or berated or judged, for doing so. And, so just it's important. I can't stress this enough. Make sure that your inner circle consists of people who really do advocate for your best interest, but ultimately understand that you yourself know yourself better than anyone else. So there's no way that anyone can tell you what's best for you except you. And that's why meditation, and I keep going back to the idea of really tuning out the distractions, because the media is programmed to deliver an agenda that is fear-based to keep you in a low vibrational state.
Right.
And when you tune out all the distractions and you focus and you channel your thoughts inwardly, and try this. Those who are listening to the show right now, try this at home sometime. When you're close the door, get into a place where you're quiet, that's quiet, and that you can be comfortable with yourself. And just either if you want to put on some headphones and listen to some 432 hertz music, that's fine. But the point that I'm trying to get across is when you tune out the noise of the daily distractions in the matrix in this world that we live in, you start to answer your own questions about where you feel like your life is headed. And by that what I mean is you're able to use discernment to understand the root cause of your emotional health. If you're feeling stressed, if you're feeling anxious or worried, or and you don't know why you're feeling that way, try taking some time to tune out the noise and really just go within and not focus any thoughts on the distractions that present themselves throughout the day, because that is going to keep you in a fear-based state that and it's not good for your health, because your cortisol levels go up, your fight or flight response, your adrenaline gets pumping, and you're just not able to make a calm, rational decision when you're in a state of fear as opposed to a state of love and harmony.
I used to go down to the creek and listen to the flowing water and just relax to the sound of the bubbling water, traveling over the rocks and all that. And I would just close my eyes and sit there and just blank out my mind and just sit there in silence and, try to look inward and figure out the things that I needed to change about myself, and, ask for clarity and, understanding on certain things that I had difficulty understanding at the moment. And it's just like when you silence your inner mind, like your brain, like all the thoughts, the answers begin to bubble up like a geyser, so to speak. And it, like,
Absolutely, Chris. I
you
agree
don't
with you
want to
100%.
like you don't want to pry at them too much because it'll take longer for the actual message to surface. But you just
Correct.
kind of like you just like poke a hole and you just let it flow, and eventually those answers will start coming to you. And if you're paying attention to the signs and like the hidden messages, and sometimes somebody will come out of the blue and tell you something that resonates with a dilemma that you were asking about, and so like, oh wait, that kind of syncretizes my question. And
Yes.
like a lot of people, they're so distracted they can't focus on the hidden things that are important to us, because there's all this external stuff that is like, hey, look at me, hey, I'm over here, look at me, look at me, don't look at this right here, like right here, look at that out there. But there's not going to be any answers from the external besides researching and stuff to clarify certain.
You get lost in the crowd.
Yeah.
Like, you get lost in the crowd. See, let's suppose that you, Chris, are a you sell lemonade at a lemonade stand, okay? And I'm giving you. I want to give you a very playful, childish example because I want to illustrate a point. Let's
Right.
say that you have Christopher Shira Enterprises sells lemonade by the street corner for children after school.
Right.
And the weeks and months go by and you just can't figure out why these kids don't aren't buying enough lemonade from your lemonade stand. So you put more sweetener in it, or maybe not sweetener, but maybe you're gonna sell it in bigger cups, or maybe sell it with like with a piece of fruit or something just to accompany that, and you start expanding all your product offerings. But let's say that at the end of the day you're not making ends meet, and and you got to pay the bills. So what do? Instead of folding the just closing shutting down the business, you direct your thoughts inwardly and ask yourself, what is it about me, the way that I interact with the public, that I can change, and in order to become a better communicator, in order to deliver a product that is more valuable to my customer than say than your competition. And that way you're not focusing on your competition, you're just focusing on what you can do yourself to increase brand awareness, to increase your product quality, and ultimately drive revenue for yourself to make more money. So
Right.
the long and the short of it, Chris, is when you're able to tune out all the distractions and get rid of insecurity and doubt, you're better able to arrive at the root of your distress. See, when you're seeking answers, you go to the doctor, and the doctor prescribes you.
Thank you.
You go to the doctor because you're not feeling well, and and the doctor asks you, well, how do you feel? If you tell the doctor that you feel fine, you're not going to feel as though you're getting your money's worth out of that visit, because obviously there must be something wrong with you if you're going to make a trip to the doctor's office. You must
Right.
not be feeling very well. But it's a
Exactly.
catch-22, because if you tell the doctor that you aren't feeling well, then you're placing the locus of responsibility outside of yourself. You're allowing that doctor to make health-based decisions for you without your consent. In other words, you're allowing that healthcare provider to make those choices for you without really you even knowing what's wrong with yourself.
Exactly.
If that makes sense.
If you listen to your body and the signs it gives you, you will figure out what is ailing, your state of being, I guess, like physically.
Yes, right.
Because your body will tell you in signs of what is going on, but a lot of us, like we've been discussing, are distracted with external stuff that most of us have failed or forgotten how to look inward and listen to our bodies and our, and our spiritual word or spiritual voices.
I mean, rather than saying that, like, that we all need to be self-governing and autonomous beings without relying upon, anyone to make it through the day, because we are, after all, as human beings, we are a social species.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm saying is, it's important that we use discernment when sifting through the enormous amounts of information that are being sent to our television sets, that are being transmitted to our cell phones, our tablets, and all that information, because we're really reaching an information age, is really serving the ironic paradox to detach from it all and return to our humanity rather than that artificial insanity.
Right.
I'd rather focus on ushering in a return to humanity than investing my time, money, and effort in virtual insanity.
Makes sense.
But and that's where, and so you have like the metaverse and people who feel as though they're plugged into the AI and use technology, and the problem with today's society, Chris, is that we use people and love technology when we should be loving people and using technology.
Right.
We have it in reverse.
Yep.
We're using people and loving technology instead of loving each other and caring about one another and really focusing our thoughts and efforts on nurturing relationships. And I'm not just talking about one and done, Chris. This isn't like, okay, that's it. That's the end of the Open Minds production show. I'll see you next year. I'm talking about, like ongoing, making consistent emotional deposits into your bank account so that Christopher Shire knows that he can rely upon Alex DeFiore, when push comes to shove at 3 a.m. when you need to pick up the red phone and answer an emergency phone call, that there's going to be someone on the other line that's going to be there to help you get through that emergency. So, it's important that we have people in our lives that and really take the time. Yeah, you're right on about that, Randy. Some people never learn what true love is. Well, in order to understand what love is, Randy, I did a show on this about 6 months ago. It's kind of like process of elimination. You have to identify what love is not, and what love is not is it is not jealous. It is not hating. It is not envious. It is not judging. It is not. So, in other words, you start making a list of everything that is not love to ultimately whittle down. It's like boiling down maple sap to make maple syrup. Once you boil it all down, then you get to the core of you get to the quality product, and then that's where the truth emerges. So
exactly.
So it's really and Chris, it's really hard in this day and age. My heart goes out to the young generation because we're faced with so much. There's so much of a push on keeping up with the Joneses, and you've got to have your iPhone or your cell phone by the time you're 13 years old or whatever. I mean, when I grew up, I was playing with sticks in the mud up until 8, 9 years old, going into the woods and playing cowboys and Indians, and coming in all with dirt under my fingernails and just just in time for dinner. Yeehaw, you know.
Right.
But you know, you have kids nowadays who this is what, you know. If it's not this, then it can, or it can. It used to be this, you know. It used to be the Rubik's cube,
Right.
or some kind of toy, you know. But now, just like we've lost touch with, we've lost the idea of playful socializing, of being able to be socially playful and do it in a respectful manner. I love playing outside and street tag. Oh yeah, Karina, one love.
Right. Like
And
I grew up on a 40-acre ranch when I was a kid in Conway,
nice,
Washington, and
yeah, bro.
the whole property was bare except for in the middle there was this grove of trees that me and my sister would always hang out in, and we made kind of like a fort, but we would always go on horseback rides through the mountains on, you know, and go into the edge of the property was at the tree line, and we would always cross the fence into the woods, and there was a pond back there where the mountain beavers would hang out. And so
Sure thing.
we did a lot of adventures. We found some old scraps by the road, and we tried to build a robot when we were kids. You know, it was
That's
just like
awesome.
having an imagination, and it was like dryer vents and an old rotted away box spring mattress with the springs exposed. You know, and it was just like we set it up. We put like sticks for arms and all sorts of stuff. We were just kids having
Yes,
fun. That
yes. Kids
kids
having
lack that
fun.
these
Thank you.
days.
Right, right. And you know, and because the truth of the matter is we are all creators and co-creators of our own reality. This there's the technology, the technological advances that we are now being introduced to are really making it very difficult for children to create on their own, on their own merits, using their own imagination, you know, without having everything laid out for them. You know, because AI, artificial intelligence, is the whole purpose of artificial intelligence is to learn the human condition, to learn human behavior, learn how to mimic human responses, human emotions, which they'll never achieve because it's you cannot create something human that is man-made, and you cannot create something artificially and call it a human, because it, at its root, it will always need a program. It will always need a programmer, someone to program its content. So unless and until artificial intelligence becomes self-aware, you know, that's not going to happen. And so we need to have children. Yeah, kids weren't being abducted. The world was safer. That's true too.
Well, I remember back in the 90s and late 80s, we had something called the milk carton kids.
Yeah.
Remember the milk carton kids were like
I
they would put
remember.
missing children on the milk cartons, so it
Yes.
wasn't really like hidden from us too much. It just wasn't publicized as well as it is now.
But
So
Shannon, there are ways that a parent or a friend can introduce one to a safe social environment without feeling like your liberties are at stake. I mean, I'll again use myself as an example. When I recovered from my mental trauma from my trip to California, the state of Florida offered to pay for a continuing education course so that I could, you know, get back, you know, get myself feeling like I'm part of society again, and you know, and within the community at large. So
right,
I ended up taking a ballroom dancing class. I took a ballroom dancing class, and you know, I met people young and old. I mean, at that class, it was like, you know, from 20 something to 70 something. And the beauty of that is that when you're able to engage with people in an environment where you're when you're able to engage with people in an environment where you've got young and old, then it creates a more kind of well-rounded kind of self. You're able to be a more well-rounded individual when you're interacting with young and old people. Because
right,
and that's really frowned upon in our modern society, is that Young people have to associate with only young people. Old people need to relate to old people, and everything's compartmentalized. No,
Mm-hmm.
that is absolutely bull baloney.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I was a kid, I had my grandparents, my parents, my cousins, my aunts, my uncles, and my friends all in the same party, all the same,
Right.
and we were all socializing together. And I mean, I distinctly recall, being able to derive some value out of each and every interaction that I had with these family members and friends, without discriminating, without feeling like I had to conform to only being able to relate to children within my age group. You know what I'm saying?
Right. I can
Or
relate to that. I was always hanging around older people and like getting their insights and their knowledge and input on like life lessons and stuff that they've been through to help teach me like some ways of the world. Like you're gonna bump into this eventually in your life. You need to be aware of that, and it's like
correct.
I'm not gonna say I haven't made mistakes and effed up here and there and got put somewhere where I wasn't supposed to be, but you know we learn from our mistakes, but some of us shouldn't have to learn like that. You know what I'm saying? Like we shouldn't have to learn through, you know, corporal punishment and stuff like that. We should be able to consciously just figure it out when we're having discussions with our parents, or and just it should click. Like, oh yeah,
Yeah,
the moral compass should automatically point to north when you get these, you know, definitions and explanations and like I grew up and I've seen kids constantly getting in trouble for the same things, you know, and
right.
it's like some people have to learn the hard way, but yet in the long run they may not learn at all because it's just like there's something clicked off, or they've missed something along the way to um, help them comprehend certain lessons. I don't know. I've always understood things a little bit better, and I'm not saying that like I know everything or like I am a saint or nothing, but um, because I've made mistakes myself, and like
You know, Chris, what it all boils down to is self-reflection.
right,
When you're able to reflect upon your own personal your own personal shortcomings and graces and strengths and weaknesses, and you're able to give yourself an honest assessment of really who you are, then you're going to be better. You're, you're just going to be better equipped to handle the distractions that present themselves to you in the world.
right,
And that's why I keep going back to the idea of meditation, because meditation is very important nowadays. They don't teach it in school. They don't teach it, unless you're part of a meetup group or something. And even then, it's really difficult to have somebody teach you how to meditate. Of course, you're gonna have your own personal style on how to meditate, and I'm gonna have my own. So it's
right,
just a matter of just know thyself. On the top of in ancient Egypt, on the top of every temple, over the arch of the door, were three words that were inscripted: know thyself. So with that, Chris, I just wanted to just close by saying, yeah, the better able you are to know yourself, who you are, and in these times especially, you really have to have a firm base understanding of who you are in order to deal with the pitfalls and the booby traps that come along the way. Because if not, you're just going to get swallowed up by the surf. You're just going to get
mm-hmm.
swallowed up by the current and taken out to sea. So know
Right,
who you understand. Try to reach out to your community. I oftentimes I advocate doing volunteer work is very good, because it gives you a sense of humility. like it instills a sense of humility upon you, and it just separates. See, because the ego is a 3-letter word that destroys a 12-letter word called relationship. And when you're able to serve others and you're not in service to yourself all the time, then you start to develop empathy and compassion. And it allows you to be able to relate to people on a more intimate level
Right.
when you perform acts of kindness and volunteer work. Because, like you and I are doing right now. I mean, I'm not, I'm not financially vested in promoting, what I talk about. But there is a certain moral obligation, a certain spiritual calling, if you will, that I feel I have to respond to. And
Right.
if these children nowadays are going to receive an influence from any credible news source, I'd sure as hell hope that it would be someone like myself, who I've got the only thing that I can say that I can truly advocate, for being true, and I like to use that word a lot. Huh? The only thing that I know for sure that I have of value to offer the public is life experience, because everything else is subjective. I can sell you this mouse. I can sell you a mouse, and you can tell me, well, I'd rather use a trackpad. So no matter, so long as you're in a competitive marketplace, there's always going to be someone who's going to pitch, a different sales approach to their brand or product that that is going to stake their product or brand higher than yours, or vice versa. So I'm
Always
just
going to
cutting
try to
all of
one
that.
up your stuff. Yeah.
Always trying to one up your stuff is what I'm trying to say. Yes. So I just really, I mean, again, my heart goes out to today's youth, because it's really getting to the point where we have to remind ourselves that our time on this planet is limited, and in order to ensure the success of our future children, we have to be the change that we wish to see in the world.
Right. So, getting into the deeper things
Yeah.
that,
Where do you want to go?
well, we've covered a lot of education and meditation, and but we kind of left out, like, okay, so the media is there intentionally to indoctrinate and to give us misinformation, and the reason behind that is because of the Vanguard Groups, the Blackrock Vanguard Groups, and the faction related with that would be
Blackrock
the
and Vanguard.
Veneer. There would be the Veneer Anunnaki. Is that correct?
Yeah.
We're not going to name names, but it's a species, or it's a group of people that have been here for millennia, just sucking up all the resources and putting it in their own pocket.
You want me to go down the rabbit hole? Okay, for the sake of putting a check mark in that category for this show, I will say that the human species is controlled by an interdimensional species of beings, sentient beings. There are a variety of them. I mean, just to name a few, you've got the Anunnaki, you've got the reptilians from the Alpha Draconis star system, you've got the Orion, you've got the
Leviathan.
Yep.
The Leviathan Illuminatis, the
Greys, the Greys,
yep,
from Zeta Reticuli, the ones without a soul. All right, so basically, the human species was seeded by the Anunnaki, however long ago, is beyond even the scope of however much I can conceive of really having happened. But what we're really dealing with here are off-world visitors that have been monitoring and harvesting human emotion, human loosh is what they call it.
Right. Loose energy. Yep.
Loosh energy.
Right.
And that's why the media wants to keep you in a low vibrational fear-based state, because when you're in a state of fear, your cortisol levels go up. It spikes your cortisol levels. And when you're in a state of fear, they're feeding off of you. That's their energy source. When you're in a state
energy
of love,
vampirism.
yes, when you're in a state of love, they're powerless. So your love is their kryptonite. Your kryptonite is their fear.
Right.
Basically. So, you know, and there's a lot that, I mean, you know, I really don't have any empirical data to support my, you know, any evidence that would suggest that there are interdimensional beings that have visited this planet. But I will say that, you know, there's enough. I have enough of a research kind of backing that would lead me to believe that we are not alone in this universe. And
not at all.
And no.
I mean, I seen UFOs when I was a kid. You know, I seen phenomena in the woods where there shouldn't been. So I mean, like, as far as being alone, that's out of the question. Like, we're definitely not alone here. I also don't believe that the Anunnaki created us. I think they manipulated us and infiltrated the DNA.
Yeah, that's what.
But I don't think that they are my gods by a long shot. They may be in control at the moment, but I don't look up to them at all.
The good news, Chris, is that people are waking up to the truth of who we are as a human species, and it's causing the supply of loosh to go down.
Right. They have to find other ways to feed.
Exactly, and we're cutting off their lifeline. So and what, you know, what that is going to result in is an ascension in consciousness. We're going to be going. There's soon going to be a split between the third dimension and the fifth dimension of consciousness. And those who have been preparing for the storm are going to be like, you know what? I'm just going to brush it off. I knew this was coming. Nothing new under the sun. But those who haven't been preparing, those who are still walking among the sheep, the sheeple, you know, the unawakened masses, they're up shit's creek without a paddle. Excuse my language, but because they're still stuck on the third dimensional, really materialistic vibe. So to that end, I tell people, do you want tips on, do you really want to ascend spiritually in this world? You have to learn to let go. Right. You have to learn to let go of material possessions, because that which you own ends up owning you.
Yep. You know, and I've always thought, you know, like I've said this before too, with other conversations that I've had personally with other people, not live conversations, but like when the day comes, if and when the day comes, and you know, we say the sheeple, like, you know, when they start noticing there's something not right here, and they'd be like, why didn't anybody tell us? And I'll be out here raising my hand like, hey, we tried telling you, but we were called these other things like crazies and conspiracy theorists. But yet, you know, when this all starts to unfold in blatant form, when people freak out about it and they don't know what to do, but like, what do we do? What do we do? What do we do? Why didn't anybody warn us or tell us? Like, there's been thousands of people coming and going that have said something, and they're not around no more. And then the media puts out the message that, oh, it was a suicide or it was a drug overdose. But, you know, I know for a fact that Chris Cornell and Chester Bennington were in an organization together to free the children from trafficking, you know, and that was another reason why, you know, I believe firmly that they were taken out of the equation, because they were onto something that was good. you know, and like the messages in Chris Cornell's music. You know, there's certain artists out there, like if they came to me and tried to offer me money to shut up, I'd be like, no, you like either kill me or leave me alone, because I'm not gonna conform to, you know, being quiet about something that I have a firm feeling about, you know, and it's not something that I've had to look up. You know, it's just something that I've felt like there's definitely something going on in the background that has been shoved under the rug, and then the media puts out a different story to what do you call it? Deprive the truth, and to make people believe, oh, this person was a heavy drug addict and they had an overdose, or they were found hung by their doorknob or something, you know. But you know, it's really hard to believe that people with such a following and into such a good cause like helping children are just gonna up and like disappear on their own. You know what I'm saying? Like
that doesn't seem plausible at all.
It doesn't. There's a factor that doesn't want, you know, and it's even written somewhere that all the lights among them will be shut off. They will be snuffed out because they don't want, you know, look what happened. Like, I'm not going to get biblical here, but look what happened to all the ancient priests. They were slaughtered because the knowledge that they beheld, you know, heads put on stakes and slaughtered in the street with a sword, and the witch hunts, like critically and free thinking women that were considered witches were destroyed and labeled as crazy and possessed and dealing with Satan and all that. So they killed them, drowned them, burnt them, you know, beheaded them, you know, and like all the Shannon says it right here. Chris and Chester were working on a documentary about child trafficking, and the difference between adrenochrome and loose is children have a pineal gland that makes it stronger. Well, yeah, children have the most pure form of adrenaline because they are so innocent. And so when you scare a child, adrenochrome, it's an oxygenated adrenaline.
Yes, and that's what the celebrities in Hollywood use. That's what the elites use to maintain their energy levels.
It's their youth serum, and they make it look like red wine and stuff. But there's actually, you can look up Marina Abramovic, the spirit cooker, and you can find all sorts of rituals and satanic shit that she does. Like, not satanic, but like blood stuff, like blood magic, which is blood over intent and all that kind of stuff. Which is
right.
Now your volume's real good now.
Okay, is it better?
Oh, way better.
Okay. My headphones just cut out. That's why.
Oh. Well, yeah, it's way better now.
Okay, good.
So there are definitely vampiric entities, and like whether people like believe in vampires or not, but they're not like with fangs and all that.
No, they're not.
They're not like it's energy and lower vibrational energies that they feed on.
Yes.
It's not like I'm gonna bite your neck and turn you type of vampire. It's a miscontrusion.
Yeah, that's Hollywood's characterization of you know, the way that's how they go about making a cartoon, you know, making light of certain dark entities. But yeah. I mean, you know, when you're talking about the subject, so I mean, we'll go there. Yeah, I mean, it's all a matter of energy exchange, and you have certain people that come into your life, and they'll conduct what I like to call an emotional drive-by, and they'll dump all their problems on you, and you know, and make you feel like, you know, like you're their counselor or their confidant. And when it's time for you to do the same, you know, to share your issues with them, they're nowhere to be found. So right. I like to call it the emotional drive-by. Stay away from people like that. I advise people to stay away from people like that, because you don't want to be around people who are constantly, you know, trying to bring you down, because of course misery loves company. And you know, it just all boils down to energy. Your vibe attracts your tribe. You know, when you vibe high, you don't allow you don't allow for people to bring you to a lower depressed state of being.
Right.
So I think we've gone a little past the 1 hour, Marcus. What do you think? Want to wrap up?
That's fine. It doesn't have to be an hour.
Oh, okay. Just checking. I didn't know.
My testimonials podcasts I was trying to limit to an hour, but like we have a lot of content to cover on this one, so like we've barely cracked open a few eggs here, so
right.
So let's fry up some of these eggs and stuff and let people know. Others.
Well, actually, I get to run pretty soon. I have another meeting coming up in 15 minutes.
Oh, okay. Well,
but yeah, I just we don't know what we don't know, and in the realm of, in the grand scheme of things, I think that we're just approaching a new cycle, a new planetary cycle, that is going to bring us into a heightened state of consciousness. It's going to allow for people to, freely express themselves without judgment. And I'm really optimistic in light of everything that you hear, on television and social media, because it's not an accurate portrayal of really what your life is about. The
Right.
Social media is just nothing more than an idealized version of what you would like to be in life, not necessarily a realistic version, but rather a romanticized version. Because help who you can. That's right. Help who you can when you can. All right, Chris, I got to run. So thanks for having me on the show.
No problem. Thanks for showing up.
Yeah. You got anything anything fun planned over the weekend?
I gotta do some fixing on stuff and hanging some pictures and trying to clear up some of the garage, some maybe, and
Okay, so a little, domestic responsibilities are
right.
common. Okay.
Yep. I'll probably work on a couple of productions for my sister. She just sent me 4 photos for another slide that I gotta make. So like, just to get the word out, like I am pursuing a production career also, which is a hobby of mine.
You got your book published? Did you get your book
It's 99% complete. I haven't published it yet, but that's the toughest part I've been finding right now, and
yeah.
I'll have to wait till tax
you,
time
man.
or something to do that.
It is difficult to publish anything. I mean, especially I can only imagine, the different regulations and the criteria that are necessary, that, in terms of making sure that you're in compliance and,
right.
And
we got to censor this part out. This is too true.
Yeah.
That's why I want to self-publish, so I don't have to like be told what to take out of it or not. Like, I'm not publishing this. Either change it or it's not going out.
That's right.
Like they pulled with the artist Eminem. Like a lot of his stuff was too controversial, so they're like, either fix the record or it's not going out. And I'm not down with that. My words aren't gonna be edited or construed in a way where it's accepted on a society to be accepted.
That's why recording artists, they buy back the rights to their own music, because they want to have complete autonomy and control over the content of their lyrics. They don't want the lyrics changed. They don't want the music dumbed down. Prince Prince did that before he passed away. He bought all the rights to his own music. I think Michael Jackson as well, although I'm not sure. But that's the price you pay for fame. You want to you want to become a recording artist, you want to become a an overnight sensation. Well, what gets your foot in the door is not necessarily what's gonna get you to stay there. Once you're in that circle, you have to forfeit certain personal preferences and freedoms in order to conform to their contractually obligated agenda.
I always say, don't trade your spiritual dreams for the corporate schemes.
There you go.
There you go.
That's
all right,
it.
man. We're gonna close this out.
All right.
We got something else to run off and do real quick. So,
Chris, you've been wonderful.
I would love to have you on a future show.
You've been wonderful. You're a very dear friend. Even though we've never met in person, I really do feel like I have a strong spiritual bond with you, and I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart to really allow for an open forum discussion like this, where people can come in and feel safe to express their own ideas without judgment. Without judgment. So
exactly. You're more than welcome.
Thank you, brother.
You're welcome, man.
All right. Peace.
Peace. Beats.